I'm Cheryl Ann Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for those of us who still dare to want it all, who have big dreams and bold ambitions. I think we deserve to have a big, full life and the freedom to enjoy it. So let's design our next chapter together for brilliance, not burnout. Each week, I'll bring ideas, insight, and a fresh perspective to keep you growing into a life that feels as good as it looks. Brilliant Balance, your life, your way. Now let's get started. This is episode 418 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today we're talking about the burnout backslide, or why high achievers keep ending up on empty and what you can do to stop it. So I am recording this episode as I return from a retreat that I had with one of my coaching groups called Bold. And it's such a good time. I mean, we do this 4 times a year with this group. I just love the opportunity to get away with these women. We were in the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina this time. And we do this again quarterly, so we get to hit different environments and different kind of vibes as the year goes on. And I hope that you get this opportunity as well, right? I hope that you have this opportunity periodically throughout the year to take a break. Maybe it's a vacation, maybe it's just a weekend when you swear that you're going to unplug and you do it. And you think, okay, I've cracked the code, right? This time I am not going back to that pace again. I have figured out, I've seen the light. I have figured out how to live at a better pace. Man, life is good when you start your day with outdoor yoga or whatever your insight is. And then a week later, 2 weeks later, your calendar is full, your brain is buzzing, you're over caffeinated, and you're right back to where you started. And I have seen this pattern in so many women. Honestly, I've lived it myself from time to time. It's what I have come to call the burnout backslide. And this is when you think you've permanently fixed it, right? You have figured out that this is no way to live and you're not going to do it anymore. And you think you're out of the woods, but really you've just kind of paused it temporarily. And it's like a bad habit you just can't break. And you keep sliding back into the patterns that lead you right back into burnout, where you're exhausted, you're kind of numbed out, you're fried, right? Whatever your language is, but you know that you cannot continue to be in this pattern. So I am sitting here, kind of calm and grounded at this point since I just got back from a retreat of my own. And I think it's a good time to unpack why this happens, right? Not just emotionally, but biologically, behaviorally. What are the drivers of how we keep ending up in burnout? And then I want to share 3 really important shifts that can help you and me stay out of this burnout loop for good, because we want to stay connected to the feeling that we have when we're grounded, when things are paced, when there's a cadence or a rhythm to life that we know that we can sustain. So the first point that I want to make is that burnout is a biological loop. Okay, let's start with this. Burnout is not a sign of weakness. It has nothing to do with your willpower. It has nothing to do, honestly, with your workload. It's biology. When you live in a constant state of stress, you're up against deadlines, demands, you have the endless to-do list. Your body actually adapts to that by releasing stress hormones. Like, you're going to be familiar with cortisol and adrenaline. These are stress hormones that your body releases when you're in this kind of state of stress. And those chemicals actually give you short-term energy and a lot of focus and drive, right? And guess what? You get rewarded for that. You check more boxes, you get more recognition, you feel more productive. So your brain learns, this is what works, right? If I want to get the recognition and be productive, I have to release this cortisol and adrenaline. So it goes looking for it. But here's the cost. When that becomes your baseline, your nervous system never really resets. So your body kind of forgets how to relax, how to be in a state where, you're not so amped up. And this is becoming a really significant problem, not just in the United States, but really all around the world. Burnout has actually now been classified as an occupational phenomenon by the World Health Organization. And they tie it to unmanaged stress. And the data suggests that up to 75% of working professionals experience the collection of symptoms that we would refer to as burnout. Okay. So when we are collectively in this sort of epidemic of these symptoms and this pattern, it really isn't just about you anymore. It's about the environment that we've all normalized. The pace that we're running at, where we're like busy, busy, busy is the way to go, right? Where we're like, I'm grinding. This is so intense. I have so much to do. I haven't had, a season that was this crazy in a long time. And when we take sort of like pride in that, it puts us into and keeps us in that biological loop. So I want you to think about, in your case, what if burnout isn't a failure on your part at all, right? What if you're not doing anything wrong? What if it's actually a failure of the system that you're living within? Where do you see evidence of that in your workplace, in your industry, in your career path, in your family system, right? Where do you see evidence that perhaps the undercurrent of burnout actually lives in the environment? And what can you do about it? Right? What are you going to do to break that pattern if you're fighting a pattern that extends far beyond you? The second point I want to make here is that even when you're not overbooked on paper, right? Your calendar may not be overbooked. Your brain can still be completely overloaded, right? And that invisible load really is like the silent killer of our energy. And so many of the women that I work with, and probably that you know, and probably that you are, have a really intense invisible load. All the remembering, all the anticipating, the planning, the soothing, that we're doing at work and at home. This is all of that sort of unrecognized, non-promotable work that no one thanks you for, you don't necessarily get paid for, but it keeps everything running. And women leaders are 1.5 times more likely than men to take on this kind of work, right? Harvard calls it the second shift. McKinsey's run studies on this. Lean In has run studies on this. Like, it's pretty well recognized that this load that doesn't show up on your calendar, it doesn't even necessarily show up on your to-do list, it's really in your head, makes you think, I should be able to handle this. When in reality, your brain is maxed out carrying the weight of all of these decisions. And again, the remembering, the anticipating, the planning, the smoothing things out for everyone around you. Did you know that beyond hosting this podcast, I also directly support women leaders at the intersection of work and life? As a member of BOLD, you get direct access to me, the women on my team, and a peer group of exceptional women who are rewriting the rules and redefining what it means to have it all together. Go to brilliant-balance.com/bold to learn more and apply for your spot today. I want you to count, how many people are you responsible for keeping afloat right now? At home, and then at work, maybe in your extended family, maybe your parents need you to do this work, right? And if your energy, if you think of it like currency, if your energy were currency, where is it leaking without giving you any return? Where are you spending energy and not getting any return? Something that we do sometimes in coaching is do an energy audit. We do time audits a lot, where we really look at where your time goes, but you can do an energy audit as well. And if you list out everything you do in a week, the decisions you make, the meetings you attend, the projects you're working on, and then you circle the things that deplete you without moving you forward, that's where your burnout is hiding, right? I bet it's invisible until you make it visible. So that energy audit, where you really can look at what is depleting your energy without moving you forward, can be a really important clue. And the third point that I want to make today is about recovery, okay? Because the good news is that once you understand that burnout is actually a rhythm problem, you can fix it, okay? Most people have not figured this out. And we treat recovery as like a reactive event. We get to a breaking point, like we just sort of fall across the finish line of some sprint that we've been in. And then we're like, okay, maybe I should take the weekend off, right? I'm toast at this point. And we kind of pull the emergency brake and we spend a day on the couch watching Netflix, right? But real recovery is rhythmic. It's built into the cadence of your everyday life. So we really function best as humans in these cyclical rhythms, right? If you think about how we work best, you've probably seen the data for years. Neuroscientists looked at this and said, we have rhythms where 90 to 120 minute cycles of focused work followed by a period of rest is optimal, right? Even taking like a 10-minute break between meetings or periods of focused work really reduces stress buildup. It's like we have to flush it out of our system. So most people kind of sprint for too long and too hard before they insert any period of recovery. And then they look for, and probably need, a pretty intense period of recovery to undo all the stress that has built up. But what works better, rather than like say waiting for your next vacation or your next retreat, is to put littler, shorter breaks into the rhythm of your week. So, and as an example, a 10-minute break between calls or between meetings where you just get up and walk around, taking one evening a week where you have nothing scheduled. It's just white space, right? You're not taking kids to practice. You're not going to a meeting. You're not sitting on a nonprofit board. You're not catching up on email or trying to finish a project. You actually take one evening a week where you have kind of nothing to do. You'll be amazed at how long an evening feels if it's unscheduled, right? And another idea is just scheduling recovery with the same priority as you schedule the work. So we're really good at scheduling periods of work into our week. In fact, we're overdeveloped at our ability to do that. But what if you scheduled recovery with that same level of focus? It kind of training like a professional athlete, right? One who understands that recovery actually is part of performance. There's no professional athlete that attempts to be in competition state year round. They're very aware that they are gearing up for peak performance in their season or at a particular game or a particular event. And then they need periods of recovery so that they can come back into another season of peak performance. We do not do that for ourselves. And it is what lands us in burnout. And I think there really is a page that we can take from the world of professional athletes and apply it to ourselves as professionals of any kind. And that idea of rhythmic recovery is a really important page we can take from that book. So I'm going to recap this episode and keep it kind of short and sweet today. First of all, burnout isn't weakness, right? It has nothing to do with willpower. It really is your body's stress loop doing exactly what it's supposed to do, but it needs to be interrupted. The second thing we said is the invisible load, the mental load you're carrying, that is a huge component of burnout, and it drains you quietly, kind of insidiously, if you don't name it and talk about it and figure out how to reduce it. It's not your responsibility to just continue to carry that invisible load on everyone else's behalf while you kind of slowly go under. And the third thing is that having sustainable energy or staying out of burnout requires you to be in rhythm, right? To treat recovery as rhythmic, not reactive, not something that has to kind of rescue you after you have completely crashed out. So if you find that you've been caught in this cycle, what I'm calling the burnout backslide, and that every time you think you've nipped it and you think, okay, now I know what to do, but then you fall back into it again, let today's episode be your reminder, right? There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. This is not an impossible feat, but you're probably out of rhythm. And when you learn to work with your body instead of against it, and you learn to work with your nervous system so that it has a chance to be regulated, and you honor yourself as a human being who deserves recovery, right? And isn't just here to perform, then you can show up at your best with energy left over for the parts of your life that you actually want to enjoy. And I think that is so much of what we've been talking about on the podcast lately. I've been talking about it with clients lately is we want big, full lives, and we're really, really good at building those, right? I bet you are spectacular at building a big, full life, right? With exciting work and lots of things that you have your fingers in. But I also want you to have the freedom to enjoy it. I want you to have the space and the energy and the capacity to sort of take in everything that you've built and celebrate it, right? To live a little. And that is going to require that you stay out of this cycle that we've been talking about today. I would love your thoughts on this. If you had an insight unlocked today, if there is something about this that you thought, oh my gosh, that's the thing. This is the piece of this that's been broken for me. DM me. I'm at cskolnicki on Instagram. It's a great way to reach me. You can share this episode with a friend or a colleague who needs the reminder. That's always, I'm so grateful whenever one of you passes on an episode to a new listener who can then become somebody that listens to the show. And if you are not yet somebody who subscribes to the show or follows it, make sure you do that so that you never miss an episode. All right, that is all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.